Hello, who's your fans, who's your haters, and everyone in between. This is the Crimson Coliseum podcast, and on today's episode, we're going to be discussing the Week 10 power rankings and how everything's shaping up going into this week. And yes, I do wear glasses. It's the first time of me wearing them, but I'm just going to adjust this because my eyes are being blinded. But just wearing them for comfort reasons right now. But start out, start out the same as we always do this week. Number 18 is Purdue, 1-6, 0-4 in conference play. Still 18th, tied for 15th of offense, 334 yards, 334.4 yards. And last in defense at 451.6 yards allowed. Last week they were on a bye, but this week they're at home against Northwestern. This is the most winnable game they have on their schedule. I mean, yeah, in order for Walters to keep his job, he needs to win this game. This is a must win for him. Speaking of Northwestern, number 17 in my rankings, 3-5, 1-4 in conference play, down two spots from being number 15. The worst offense, the lowest gaining offense at 271.41 yards, and the 12th ranked defense at 350.8 yards. Last week they got drummed at Iowa 14-40. And this week they're at Purdue. Let's see if they bounce back after that bad loss. Just simply put, that was not great. Number 16, finally getting out of the bottom two is UCLA. 2-5, 1-4 in conference play. 17th best offense at 302.4 yards, 302.1 yards, and the 14th best defense at 367.3 yards. Previous week they had a bye, but this week they're at Nebraska. Um, let's hope they're ready because Nebraska is going to be very hungry. They haven't won a game after being right at bowl eligibility under Matt Rule. Let's see if they can break that. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But UCLA had a really good. They had their first win, really good win at Rutgers. But let's see what happens now. At number 15, I have Maryland. 4-4, 1-4 in conference play. Seventh in offense at 433.5 yards and 16th in defense at 381 yards. Last week they lost at Minnesota 23-48, and this week they have a bye. Um, they had a terrible game, honestly. And they have to regroup after this bye so they can try to win their two of their next four. And I have the same thing for Rutgers, who's also 4-4, 1-4 in conference play. Staying the same at 14, ninth best offense, 381.3 yards, and the 17th best defense, 385.3 yards. Last week they lost at USC, 20-42. This week they're also on a bye. So just looking at the different schedules for these two teams, real fast. Big Ten, Week 11, just because they're both on a bye. So let's look at Rutgers first. Rutgers is hosting Minnesota at Maryland. So Rutgers and Maryland will face off against each other. At home against Illinois, and then at Michigan State is their final game of the season. And then for Maryland, geez, next week is not a great slate of games. A lot of teams are on bye. Their game off of the bye is at number one Oregon, hosting Rutgers, hosting Iowa, at number three Penn State. Right now, the reason why I have Rutgers ahead of Maryland because Rutgers has an easier shot to get to 6 wins. Because I don't believe they play one ranked team, and that's Illinois. Play them at home. So 4 games, they could probably win. They could probably win two of them. Wouldn't put it past them. But they got to beat Maryland to do that, in my opinion, because I don't think they could beat Minnesota. I don't know. But without Minnesota's playing, who knows? Heading into the bowl contender tier is USC, 4-4, 2-4 in conference play. Seventh ranked in offense at 434 yards, and the 14th ranked defense at 361.1 yards. A win against Rutgers, 42-20, put them at 500. This week they're at Washington. It's a good bounce back win. But now they're going to a team that's undefeated at home. And going to Washington is going to be difficult for them because Washington's good at home. That much is certain. So let's look at the rest of their schedule because they are going to be fighting for bowl eligibility. They have the last game of the week. Good for them. At Washington, at home against Nebraska, at UCLA, at home against Notre Dame. So they could beat UCLA on the road, but they need to beat one of Washington or Nebraska. to get bowl eligibility because I don't think they're going to be beating Notre Dame at home. I don't think so. I mean, they could. That'd be hilarious. I'd be all for it. At number 12 is Michigan State, 4-4, 2-3 in conference play, staying the same at 12. 10th ranked offense at 366.7 yards, the ninth ranked defense at 323.1 yards. Last week they lost at Michigan 17-24, and this week they're hosting number 13 Indiana. They played very well. They played good enough to win that game against Michigan. They just didn't execute everything. They got another hard test as Indiana's coming to town, and who knows if Rourke's playing. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but it's gonna be a hard test for Michigan State. At number 11, down one spot, is Nebraska. 5-3. Well, actually, but before I go into Nebraska, I want to talk about Michigan State's schedule, see if they can get to 6 wins, because they are playing. So they after Indiana is at Illinois, hosting Purdue, hosting Rutgers. So they can get to 6 wins. I think they can. They need to win the next two. Definitely. They need to win the last two games of the season. They need to win the last two, in my opinion. And going into Nebraska, they're 5-3, 2-3 in conference play. They have the 11th ranked offense at 358.1 yards and the 8th ranked defense at 301.9 yards. And last week they lost at number 4 Ohio State 17-21. And well, that was a lot better game than I expected to be. Michigan played well, Nebraska played a lot better than they did against Indiana. And this week they're hosting UCLA. So they're hosting UCLA at USC, hosting Wisconsin at Iowa. They need to win one of those to get to bowl eligibility. And I think they could do it this week. I don't know about the last three. Those are gonna be tough games, but they're gonna with how the schedule is turning out, they need to win this game. And number 10 is Washington, 4-4, 2-3 in conference play. Down one for number 9. Fifth ranked offense at 435.9 yards, and the fourth ranked defense at 272 yards. Last week they lost at number 13 Indiana, 17-31. This week they're hosting USC, and they need to find a way to win on the road this season. They're great at home. They're 4-0 at home, but 0-4 away from home because they had that neutral loss to Washington State. And that game might actually be more important in terms of them getting bowl eligibility than we thought heading into this. Because they're hosting USC, which they can win because it's at home, and I think they have a good shot at that. At number 3, Penn State, hosting UCLA. At number 1, Oregon. They're now winning a road game this season. Never mind what I said. At Happy Valley and at Oregon. Rough. You probably should have beaten Iowa. Or you should have beaten Rutgers. You have two chances to win, and you could have been bowl game. That's just the story of the Big Ten right now, is just missed opportunities. At number 9, up 2 spots from number 11 is Minnesota. 5-3, 3-2 in conference play. Tied for 15th in offense with Purdue at 334.4 yards. Fifth in defense at 282.9 yards. A win versus Maryland last week, 48-23. And this week they're at Illinois. It's a very big game for them. Right now they're favored by 3 points, wildly enough. I like what Minnesota's doing. They're going to Rutgers, hosting number 3 Penn State, and going to Wisconsin. So I feel like they're gonna have to be the team that they're lesser than or going into a worse situation than. They're gonna have to get an upset, basically. And this game could be the game to do it. They've been on a roll recently, so let's see how that works. And another team with missed opportunities, if they beat North Carolina, they'd be bowl eligible right now. And number 8 is Iowa, 5-3, 3-2 in conference play. Same places where they were last week. 13th in offense at 347.9, and 8th in defense at 315.9. Last week they beat Northwestern 40-14, and this week they're facing Wisconsin. And only reason why I have Iowa over Minnesota is because of that head-to-head win. Both teams are looking comparable, so I'm using that head-to-head win as the deciding factor. Where we're gonna have Iowa stay because they're pretty comparable. Iowa and Minnesota right now are pretty similar. Um, they need to win one game to get to bowl eligibility. They're hosting Wisconsin, which they could win because it's hard to win at Iowa. but game with missed opportunities, losing to Iowa State by one at home. That is a missed opportunity. Losing to Michigan State is a missed opportunity there. They have a couple where they could be 7-1 and ranked right now. If a couple things, if they could be ranked right now if they would have beaten Iowa State. And Iowa State's in the playoff picture right now. So that's how good that win looks. That game looks now. At number seven, staying at number seven is Michigan. 5-3, 3-2 in conference play. 16th ranked offense at 308.6 yards, and the 10th ranked defense at 326.3 yards. Win versus Michigan State 24-17. And this week they're hosting number one Oregon. Great win. You got the Paul Bunyan Trophy. Great win against a rival. Hopefully, Kalel Mullings um, is not going to get suspended. It seemed like he's not after what happened, but just hope everything is great for them and they can keep going because it's a big part of that offense. The rest of the season, they've got Indiana. They're going to Indiana, hosting Northwestern, and at Ohio State. That Northwestern game is going to be their best chance to get to bowl eligibility. And at home against Oregon, it's not going to be an easy game for Oregon, or it's not going to be an easy game for the Ducks because Ann Arbor is a tough place to play. But hopefully they play better than the last time a number one team played in their building this year because we all saw what happened last time. At number six is Wisconsin still. A lot of these are staying the same, really. There's only one major change left in these rankings. Wisconsin is eighth in offense at 406.6 yards and sixth in defense at 259.7 yards. A loss against number three Penn State, 13-28 was last week. This week they're going to Iowa. And this is going to be a difficult game. Difficult game for them. Um, they can get to this is going to be honestly it's probably going to be one of the better games of the evening. But they're going to Iowa, hosting Oregon, to Nebraska, hosting Minnesota. That's not an easy schedule. That's not. They could beat Nebraska, I think. They could probably beat Minnesota. But winning this game would be big. Get the bowl eligibility out of the way so you don't have to worry about it the last week of the season against a rival. At number five ranked number 24, Illinois, 6-2, 3-2 in conference play. Staying the same at number five. The 12th ranked offense at 356.5 yards and the 13th ranked defense at 366 yards. They lost at number one Oregon 9-38. And this week they're hosting Minnesota. Yeah, it's not great. You're going to the class of the conference in Oregon. You kind of wish that'd be better though. The rest of the season, they're hosting Minnesota, hosting Michigan State, at Rutgers, and at Northwestern. They can get to bowl eligibility. I think they can. Pretty easily. But they just got to take care of business. That's all they got to do. They can't let anyone surprise them. At number four is the first of the four. Well, wait, why am I saying they need to go bowl eligible? They're already bowl eligible. They're 6-2. What am I talking about? Disregard. To get a better bowl game, I think they can win. They can get some better wins. Number four is number 13, Indiana. 8-0, 5-0 in conference play. Ranked fourth still. Best offense at 487.6 yards. The third ranked defense at 269.5 yards. Previous week they beat Washington 31-17, and this week they're at Michigan State, and hopefully work and play. They're going into the toughest road environment of the season so far at East Lansing, and they're not gonna have many. They're not gonna have as many IU fans as they had in the previous two games, so they're not gonna bank on that. But I think they can win without Taven. Well, no, without they can win with Taven. But Rourke would be great. Having Rourke there would be great. Apparently, he has screws in his thumb, so that's a little concerning. And he could have jammed. He might have jammed it too. But if he could play through, if he can be as close to, if he's 100%, play him. If he's 100%, play him. But if he's not, I wouldn't want to risk it. I think he can win without Rourke in there. But going to my playoff contenders, Ohio State is number four, 6-1, 3-1 in conference play. They're down from number two, second ranked offense at 471.9 yards, and the best ranked defense at 254.4 yards. Previous week they beat Nebraska 21-17, and this week they're at number 3 Penn State. And yeah, that was concerning. O-line has concerns injury-wise, and you're going into Happy Valley. Something's got to give with these two, Ohio State and Penn State. And I gave Penn State the nod here over Ohio State just simply because I like their win better. And Penn State is third in offense at 471.2 yards, second in defense at 262.5 yards. Previous week they beat Wisconsin 28-13. And hopefully Drew Aller, if Drew Aller's playing, I like Penn State's chances. But James Franklin only has one win against I think a top 5 team, and Ryan Day has not beaten an opponent that is 7-0 or better. So something's got to give with these two guys. And someone could be on the chopping block after one of these two could be on the chopping block after the season because of this game. I'm going to be very interested to see. This is probably the best game of the week, 100%. And last but not least, number 1 Oregon, 8-0, 5-0 conference play, fourth in offense, 467.1 yards, seventh in defense, 297.2 yards. They beat up on number 20 Illinois 38-9. And this week they're going to Michigan. Top of the conference, still they lose, just simply put, but they've got a tough game. It's going to be kind of a trap game for them. And obviously, a 5-3 team's not a trap game, but it's still like you got to take them seriously. It's in the big house. There's 100,000 people there. They're going to be cheering on the Wolverines. Got to do it right. Got to win easily. All right, that's gonna be all for today. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, share on all platforms. I'm gonna ask you, where did I go wrong here? And before you get mad at me, Hoosier fans, I said a couple weeks now, Indiana is not getting into playoff contenders until they get past Michigan in a 10-0. That is whenever I think they are playoff contenders. Not because I don't believe in them, just because I don't want to risk it. That's why I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk being putting in a playoff contenders and then losing immediately. Like, what am I doing? What am I supposed to do here? That type of thing. All right.